Hey guys, what's going on? In case you haven't noticed, you may have missed it if you haven't tuned in to things lately. But things really suck. And you're like, well, Robert, things always suck. That's life. No, 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 but they really, really suck right now. It's true that life's always been hard and politics have always been stupid and people have always been stupid, but to this degree, I haven't seen before. I haven't read about before. I remember things personally. I read about things, and it's been a long, long time since things were this bad in this country. But I don't want to talk about that today. I've already made countless videos when I just rage at stuff, the election fraud, the lockdowns, whatever. It's already been done 1,000 times, not only by myself, but every single other YouTuber talks about politics. So what's the point? We know everything sucks. We know that Biden's gonna be elected. We know that the lockdowns are not going away. The mask mandate's not going to go away. We know that people are going to lose their home. They're going to starve. They already are. The media is never going to mention it, though, unless you find out for yourself. You go looking for yourself. The news, when I say the news, it's not one uniform conglomerate. The local news reports on this stuff all the time. Even some mainstream news reports on it. But is it going to be highlighted when you do Google News? No. When we listen to the news on the radio, for example, is it going to be the story that they talk about? No. It's there, but they're not going to promote it. Are you going to see it on Facebook? Depends on what pages you follow. Increasingly, no, they're just going to censor it. Unless you follow, pro-liberty or pro-libertarian pages, you're not going to see anything about it. Doesn't mean that it's not happening. Doesn't mean that even the media is not reporting on it. They just don't push it out there. Most people do not consume as much news as I do. They catch a little bit in the morning when they're getting ready for work, and they might catch it on the radio or something when they're driving to work, and they might catch it, when they're scrolling through Facebook on their lunch break, and like that's it. It's a very, very small snippet of how much news is out there, and then they do that all day, every day, and you think, oh, I know what's happening. I listen to three different news sources: the news and the TV, the radio, in the car, and Facebook, not knowing that they're all pushing the exact same narrative and giving the exact same lies and not talking about the exact same thing every single time. So where am I going with this? Well, we already know that things are going to suck majorly for the next 4 years at least. I don't think we're ever going to see a Republican president again because the Democrats pulled off what they did with a whole mountain range, not just a mountain, but a whole mountain range, multiple mountains of evidence showing what they did, and their supporters just don't care. They act like it doesn't happen. Evidence doesn't matter in a cult, in a religion. Evidence is not important. It doesn't matter how many links or affidavits or court documents or testimonies that you show them. It doesn't matter. They've already convinced themselves that Biden won it fair and square, so they just discount it. Like, oh, that's doesn't count. No, that's stupid. No, that doesn't make sense. No, that doesn't. Whatever excuse they come up with, or they just don't respond in general if they can't think of anything in response. So the Democrats know they can do this again in 4 years. Even if Trump runs in 2024, the exact same thing will happen. You're like, well, maybe the Republicans will nominate someone else because Trump was super, super unpopular. What the media did to demonize Trump to make people hate him so much, they can do with any other Republican candidate. Remember how they demonized Romney? Romney was the devil. Romney was going to take away our health care. Romney was going to let women die from not having abortions. Remember that in 2012? They will demonize Trump. The way they demonize Trump, they will do that to any person the Republican Party picks. Even if he's a darling to them today. Like Mitt Romney was a devil in 2012. Now he's cheered on by the left because he's anti-Trump. Wow. It's the exact same person, the exact same fucking policies. Yet depending on situation, they either love him or think he's the devil. Same thing with John McCain. John McCain was the devil in 2008 whenever he ran against Obama. Then once he was anti-Trump and they lied saying that Trump was making fun of his war service, oh, then suddenly he was a darling on the left and they were so sad to see him go, even though he literally supported the exact same policies both times. Wow, what a coincidence. I'm sure it's just a coincidence. It doesn't speak to a larger theme. But where is I going with this? It doesn't matter who the Republicans pick. They could Pick even a Democrat who's like, oh, I'm switching parties. They could choose Elizabeth Warren, for example. I know they won't, but let's say they do. The left and the media will turn on her on a dime and make up all this crap against her and call her a racist, privileged white person, even though before they called her, a oppressed woman of color. Exact same DNA, 0.02% Native American. Exact same fucking person, but they will turn on her. It doesn't matter who they propose. The media will do the exact same thing and convince 40% of the population that they're literally Hitler, and therefore anything and everything is justified to stop them from getting elected, including stealing the election. And they'll just do it again, and 40% of Americans won't give a shit. Even the Republicans won't care. There's so many rhinos who are sitting there with all this evidence stacked right in front of them, like, congratulations, Biden. Like, they don't care. They're spineless. They don't care about their own party's future. They don't care about their own reelection chances. They all they care about, let me just stay in power and get money. That's all they care about. This isn't new. It's not like politicians cared about it so much before, and now they're only in it for the money recently. No, I'm not acting like this is a totally new trend in 2020 and everything's different now. It's just a continuation of the same thing that's been happening long before I was born. Nothing's new except that the degree of it has heightened. So, this video did not go the way I wanted. I wanted to stay positive the entire time, but I guess I had to lay down the groundwork of this is a situation we're in. So, what's the positive aspect you can glean from this? Well, it's the old cliche when it comes to what psychologists say how to respond to anxiety and stress, that to only focus on the things that you can control. Raging about politics or the lockdowns won't do any good. We've been doing that the entire time and no one cares because 40% of the population, roughly give or take, supports it. So what can you control? You can control yourself. You can control your household. You can control your finances to a degree, obviously. I'm not saying you can just magically fix everything, but focus on the things that you can improve in your life to better deal with the bullshit outside. That's not going to change no matter what you do. Like, the job market is going to get worse. Taxes are going to go up. Gun regulations are going to go up. It doesn't matter what we do at this point, but how to better prepare for that. Now that depends on your own situation. If you're a business owner, like if I was a business owner, I would absolutely be like some of those guys you see on the internet who open up despite the lockdowns. Like, I need to feed my family. I need to pay my employees so they can feed their family. I'm going to open up no matter what, and you guys can just fuck off. But I don't own a business. I can support those businesses who are still open. When I'm supervising my office, I can tell people you don't have to wear a mask if you don't want to. I don't enforce it rigorously the way other people do, and they freak out if you don't wear one, even though you're like 25 feet away from them. Like, you can only control what you can control. Duh. You know? You're probably saying. But, I mean, I'm really glad I had that stockpile of ammo and food whenever things started first locking down. We were like, we don't know how long the stores are going to be open. We don't know, like, how bad is it going to get. Now, it didn't come to that point because what they deemed essential businesses, which every business is essential because every business puts food on the table for families and children. But regardless, these stores that were deemed essential were still open. Now, they were wiped out as fuck when it comes to supplies and inventory, but it wasn't apocalyptic levels. I called it the apocalypse light. Like, yeah, some sections like soup and canned goods wiped out for weeks. Toilet paper and paper towels wiped out for weeks. But it was only for weeks and months. It wasn't for years and years. It wasn't the true apocalypse. Who knows if that's going to happen again? In some ways, it already is. So what do? You build up supplies when you can, as your budget allows. Obviously, my budget is not as big as other people's. But you do what you can with what you have in order to better prepare for the bullshit out there that you can't change. You can only change how you deal with it. That's an important thing I learned as a young adult, dealing with all of these stresses I didn't have as a kid. You're dealing with the first time on your own, and you're like, you can't change that this shitty fucking thing happened to you, whatever. All you can change is how you react to it. You can stomp your feet and cry and run around and say, this is unfair and this sucks, and then guess what? The problem's still there. You still have to deal with it. Or you can buckle down and say, this fucking sucks. This is stupid. Let me tackle it head on and get rid of it, solve it, mitigate it, whatever the situation may be. Just have that attitude. That's easier said than done. I'm not acting like I'm the only person who's like, oh yeah, I never get mad at anything. I always approach everything completely calm and I'm always level headed. Like I try to be, but we're human. I'm not saying being a perfect robot, but have that mindset when it comes to the bullshit that is 2020. If you have land, start growing your own crops. I'm gonna go so ape shit with my garden next year. It's gonna be a lot of work, obviously, but it's gonna be so much fun because I didn't have enough time to do a lot this year. But I laid down the groundwork for what I want to do next year. So I'm gonna grow a fuck ton of food to lessen my dependency on the supply chain that is incredibly fragile. Am I gonna be completely independent? No, that requires too much. Don't have enough land, don't have enough resources, guys still have to work. But if you can lessen your bills by a substantial amount by growing your own food, then that's more money to save or invest or buy something else like ammo. Learning new skills, like people are locked up at home for months and months. You can learn a new skill. There's so many things you can learn online. I learned to cook from scratch a lot more. I hardly ever cooked from scratch. I didn't like doing it. It stressed me out because I was worried I was going to mess up and make shitty fucking food. But now I've gotten so good at it that I do it, regularly a couple times a week, and I'm actually pretty good at it, if I do say so myself. Lots of survival skills. You can learn a bunch of that online. When people saw Black Lives Matter marching through neighborhoods, burning houses and dragging people out in the streets and stabbing them, which again the media just act like never happened ever in the history of the world. Learning how to defend yourself and your family and your house if it comes to that. Odds are, no, it won't happen. There's 10,000 million neighborhoods in the US. Odds are yours is not going to be Kenosha or that suburb with the McCloskeys in Missouri. Odds are no. But what if it does? Then you want to be ready. Like, oh, you sound like a fanatical Burt Gummer radical right-wing conspiracy theorist. Back just back a couple of decades ago, before the left went off the deep end, learning how to fight and learning how to protect yourselves and your family, learning how to defend your own home was not considered radical or crazy. That was like the norm. Like everyone knew how to do it. Military conscription was a thing in this country up until the 70s. So up until relatively recently, every single man that didn't have, wasn't physically disabled or like opted out because of priesthood, for example, whatever it may be, the vast majority of them knew how to use firearms and knew how to fight in some capacity, or were like a medic or like a radio, they operated a radio. Like they knew these survival skills, and you weren't crazy to want to learn how to do them. In fact, it was necessary. Like, oh, well, that was a long time ago. That was different era. Really, the 70s was a different era. I mean, yeah, in terms of culture and music or dress, like whatever, yeah, but like it wasn't like 500 years ago. We have plenty of people living today that lived in the 70s, so it wasn't that long ago. All these things, like, it's really frustrating. People think that everything that happened before them is like ancient history. So if it happened before, I don't know, whatever, 1995, let's say you're born 1995, it's like, well, that thing happened in 1979. Oh, it's so ancient history. No, it's 16 years before you were born, dude. It's not that long ago. Did I get the math right on that one? I did math at the top of my head. 1979 to 1995 is 16, yeah, 16 years. So I guess that's my attempt at a positive video, even though I did rant. Damn it, Bobby. Every time, man. But at least I attempted. Is to the message was to be the best prepared you can for the bullshit that's going to be coming. Because at the end of the day, the institutions are not going to help you. Police are not going to help you. Your fellow American, depending, you flip a coin, odds are heads, they're going to help you, tails or not. If 2020 has shown me anything, is how much Americans hate each other. And what do I mean by that? Well, we've been living in clown world for quite some time. Clown world is nothing new. Yet we live in a country and society today where wanting people to be kicked out of their homes, to lose their jobs, lose their businesses, which they may have put decades of work to, have their children starve, not be able to afford medicine, that is seen as virtuous and caring. But on the flip side, on my side, saying that people should be able to, one, have their rights, being able to provide for their families, move where they want to, go where they want to, operate their property the way they see fit, that is considered selfish and dangerous, and you want people to die and you hate people. We have completely reversed the virtues that what we usually mean by. Up until this year, no, actually, when I talked about gun rights before, I was called selfish before, but by and large, up until this year, wanting your rights was not considered selfish. It was a little bit. Sorry, I keep on deviating. Back when people were complaining about the NDAA and people stealing their cell phone records and their emails and texts, it was like, well, you have nothing to hide, then what's the big deal? Even if it stops just one terrorist, it's worth it. Well, newsflash, that whole program didn't stop a single terrorist. So cool. Just like the TSA has never stopped a terrorist attack ever. I would love anyone to show me an article showing they stopped anything. But by and large, on the whole, I know we have increasingly been coming to the point where people wanting their own rights that they should have no matter what. That's how the Constitution was written. They are being seen as selfish. Now we live in a country where wanting people to put food on the table for your children is considered selfish. Operating your own property, your business that you legally bought and have put decades of work into, that is considered selfish. And we have 40% of Americans who want millions of people to starve, millions of people to lose their home just so they can feel safe from this virus is blown completely out of proportion. There's 40% of Americans who hate the other 60%, who just want to see them die in a ditch if it makes them feel safer. Now, they're never going to admit that. Like, no, I just want the lockdowns and mass mandates so then COVID can go away. Well, first of all, neither of those two things are going to help COVID, quote unquote, go away. Second of all, COVID is never going to go away. It's always going to exist. We have to learn to live with it. It's not going to go away like, oh, we just stay in our homes long enough and just let the government control everything we do, then sooner or later it will go away and go back to normal. No, that is naive. That is such a naive way of looking at this that it's just laughable. The flu never goes away. The flu has a season. The flu changes every single year. We're never going to eradicate the flu. We can limit the damage it does. It's never going to get gotten rid of. The same thing with COVID. The same thing with every single illness that you can think of. The bubonic plague first rose up in San Francisco a couple of years ago after like hundreds of years not doing anything. Even that's not going to go away. That's been running for hundreds and hundreds of years. So we do have clown world. We have Americans who hate us, who want to strip away our rights and don't care about the consequences. We have horrific politicians. But what can you do against all that? I'm not saying you shouldn't speak up. I'm not saying you shouldn't rage at them. I'm going to continue doing that. But at the same time, you shouldn't just stop at that. You're going to be like, okay, how do I deal with this the best way possible? Do I run for office in my local town? Do I grow a fuck ton of food in my backyard? Do I expand my ammo reserves? Do I learn a new skill? Do I improve the skills I already have so that when the time comes, I am in the best position to deal with this? And that's the positive way that we need to look at this. I know it's a cliche, but they say that hard times create strong men. Well, that's what we need to step up to do. These are hard times coming our way, so we're not going to riddle up and die and whine and complain. You step up and you deal with it.